it back out there cheaply and quickly. It's about getting it done safely. Your family's safety is their number one priority, and they have the certifications to prove it. More than a dozen major car manufacturers and the iCar Gold Class certification. What is iCar Gold Class certification? Well, visit CompleteCollision.com to learn about it. CompleteCollision.com. Don't let who you choose to repair your vehicle be your second accident. Check out CompleteCollision.com. So FEMA's got a lot going on right now, as you would expect. FEMA has quite a bit going on, and one of the things they've got is providing financial assistance to applicants with immediate or critical needs because they're displaced from their primary residence. Now, this thing isn't going to apply to a ton of people in Baton Rouge. Most of us were still able to stay in our homes. Even a lot of us that took trees, the house is still livable, and we could just get a blue roof, right? Well, further down the road, which we're going to talk about a lot more in the next segment, further down the road, there was a lot more destruction, and there's a lot more people that are in need of staying someplace. So, along with being displaced from their primary residence, there's also needs of, people being limited to water, food, first aid, medical supply, fuel for transportation. FEMA spokesperson Patrick Boland says those in affected parishes should register for $500 in critical needs assistance. Ascension, Assumption, East Baton Rouge, East Feliciana, Iberia, Iberville, Jefferson, Lafourche, Livingston, Orleans, Plaquemines, Poicape, St. Bernard, St. Charles, St. Helena, St. James, St. John the Baptist, St. Martin, St. Mary, St. Tammany, Tangipahoa, Terrebonne, Washington, and West Baton Rouge, and West Feliciana, all are eligible to apply for individual assistance. In order to do that, you can call FEMA. The phone number is 1-800-621-FEMA. 1-800-621-FEMA. But be prepared. There's a lot of people calling. So you're going to have some pretty long hold times as well. If you've got internet access, you can go to disasterassistance.gov. Boland says you could receive the funds by whichever method is most convenient. Now, Boland says more than 131,000 people have already received the $500 critical needs assistance with FEMA in Louisiana, the majority of which coming from Orleans, St. Tammany, and Jefferson parishes. Boland highly encourages those in affected parishes to register to get immediate relief. If you aren't sure if you're eligible, he says FEMA will make the determination, but the first step is registering. So along with that assistance, there's other assistance that's out there as well, $132 million in FEMA assistance. It's already in the hands of people that were impacted by the storm in the form of different grants. And FEMA notes that grants are not loans, so they don't have to be repaid. They're not taxable income. They won't affect eligibility for Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, or any supplemental nutrition, SNAP benefits. None of that is affected by getting money from FEMA. So if you're worried about, I want to take this, but will the impact be down the road? There will be none. There will be none. You don't have to file it on your taxes or anything like that. Well, at least not as far as what FEMA is saying right now. It's what went on in further southeast Louisiana from us was just ridiculous as far as the level of devastation was concerned. I got the chance to see a lot of it firsthand, and we're going to talk about that when we come back. We've got news, we've got traffic, we've got weather all coming your way. When we come back, though, let's take a little look at, say, Lower Jefferson Parish, Lafourche Parish, Terrebonne, and the like. That's all coming your way right here on Talk 107.3 FM, the new flavor of talk.
That's going to go into a traffic, which is going to go into a commercial break. I'm Jeff Palermo, the Talk 1073 Baton Rouge newsroom. Entergy says more than 51% of their customers have power again, and Clico says its restoration percentage is 90%.
Where at?
There's some who say, why don't
The
utility
pool.
companies bury the electricity infrastructure underground?
Oh, at Southern Oaks? Cool.
Green says it's an idea that should be looked at, but it's expensive and it might not prevent all power outages.
Yeah.
Many Hurricane Ida storm survivors are receiving $500.
That Craig Green audio is from this show on Friday.
When did you come back and put in the CBS? Because I was here.
Sunday. I put it in Sunday. I came back up Sunday.
Okay. Because I was here for post game for a little bit. I was like, yeah, I want to try some of that after the.
Yeah, I was falling asleep at that point. It was such a long day.
That game didn't end until 11:10. I thought it would end at 11:20 or earlier.
Yeah.
Because we started counting. Okay, 11:10. Brian's gonna be done at like 12:40. We're starting at 12:40. So like I stayed here and made sure they got good at like 1:30, and then I'm like, I stayed until 2:40.
Morning, Rich.
Good morning, Kay. Good morning. How you doing, brother? Good to see you. What's happening? Power back Saturday. Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah. Snap.
East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office says charges are likely coming against the adults responsible for caring for a 2-year-old child who was found dead in an apartment complex pool last night.
Yep.
The incident happened at the Reserve at the White Oak apartment complex off South Harrells Ferry Road. Talk 1073 Baton Rouge.
Now, your WBRZ traffic update from Ashley Fouché.
Note the green map this morning. That means no major slowdowns, backups, or crashes as a lot of folks are returning to work and school today. The ferry's in service and CATS has returned bus service to the
I would
area
assume
as
there's no more
well.
outages in EBR.
Also, all lanes are
It's under 500 left in EBR.
near Bluff to Swamp. Of course, that area was shut down due to work on the
That is
power
still
lines and then
surprising.
that
I would have
truck
thought by
plowing
now.
through, undoing all that. So
Yeah.
that road
Previously, I was
closure is
focused.
now a thing of the past. You can travel through the area and right around Highland Road, the interstate travel.
I'll pull up the map and show you right where.
Pass on I-10.
I'm assuming more time to Livingston. I just would have thought by now East Baton Rouge.
This report is brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get up to $170
Less
from
things
the
to
purchase
cut
of
through to
Ford
get
Toyo
to set
passenger
up or
light
whatever.
truck tires.
There's been some other stuff going on that's been a problem, to say the least.
Yeah.
Oh, I had a bad dream the other night. Can't be worse than mine.
Let's see if WBRZ wants to.
Surrounded by an army of prairie dogs, and their leader rides up, rides. Yep.
Morning, T-Bob.
And he orders me to eat this huge mound of candy corn. So all the prairie dogs line up and feed it to me piece by piece. I'll never look at that Halloween confectionery the same again. What about you? Well, I dreamed I forgot to schedule my annual general inspection at AGCO, and my car left me stranded on
All that is
I-10.
the
Now that's
notations on
scary.
something. Like that's the next thing coming up.
Keep up with Garvey.
It's
In our
something that's
annual
not in
general
the law,
inspection, you pick
but
them
it's
up,
something like
we
when
check
you
out
order
your
the
vehicle and
sequence of
recommend
things
any
that are
maintenance you
planned.
may need, which can save you costly repairs
What's gonna
down the road.
happen
That was a freaky dream. Were you on medication, or did you eat anything strange? Yeah, I actually ate a whole bag of candy corn left over from Halloween 2014. Schedule your general inspection today at AGCO Automotive. AGCO, it's the place to go.
All this is like a regional liner.
Jay Farner
So you
here,
can play that,
CEO
you can
of
play
Rocket
your
Companies.
music
If you thought you missed
and you
your
can play that
chance to
regional liner.
refinance and save,
This
think again. Mortgage rates have recently dropped,
this
and
is like a
Rocket
talk
Mortgage can
segment.
help you save
But
big
all
when
it
you
is,
call
the computer is a
8338
wait.
Rocket today.
It's wait.
For
It's telling the
example,
computer
with a
wait until Jake
$250,000
plays the
30-year
next
fixed
song
rate
set.
mortgage,
It's
you
just
can get the
holding
new
one in
low
place.
rate under 3%.
Otherwise,
If your
it would
current
just
rate is over
continue to go up.
3.75%, you could lower
Those
your
are
deal
built in.
for $100 a
Those are
month,
built in.
saving
Who is that?
interest. But you've got to act now, because no one knows how long
Who are
these
you?
rates will last. So when you need a simple way to get big savings, Rocket can.
Jesus. Do what? Gotcha.
Bringing you the news you can use with Brian Kilmeade and common sense for your dollars and cents with Dave Ramsey. Talk 107.3, the new flavor of talk.
Showers and storms will bubble up again this afternoon. They'll be less widespread than they were yesterday, but
They'll
all
bubble.
areas will still have a chance to catch a shower.
They will bubble.
Possible, but there are no flash
Bubbles.
out today. Temperatures will max out in the upper 80s, and the areas that do not see rain will likely see a heat index in the triple digits. Overnight lows will be in the low 70s. Wednesday will be a bit drier with just a few isolated showers and temperatures again in the upper 80s. Drier air will work its way in on Thursday, dropping the humidity and overnight lows down into the 60s.
.638, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. So I got to hitch a ride Saturday morning with one of the assessment tours that was looking at, well, mostly Jefferson Parish, but some other areas as well, looking at hurricane damage. It was really eye-opening and really heartbreaking to see everything like that up close and personal. I'll have a bunch posted to my YouTube later on today. I've got other forms of social media that have already got video footage out there if you want to see it. Actually, I've got a really good shot of Grand Isle. It's up on my TikTok, of all places. And firsthand, it's brutal. If you're familiar with Grand Isle, if you know Grand Isle at all, I could tell you the Bridgeside Marina still standing, but they've got a long road in front of them. Although there isn't much road in front of them, the main drag through Grand Isle's got to be dug back out again. It is overtopped with all kinds of, I guess, just the sand from the beach that the storm surge pushed over. It was crazy to see, like, just trucks driving up and down beach. Essentially, that's what it was. We'll get back to Grand Isle in a second. Lafitte, Lower Lafitte, La Rose, seeing areas along the bayou as you travel south on Highway 1, areas along the bayou were just devastated. You'd see 3-4 houses in a row ripped to shreds, ripped to splinters. The studs were just splintered all the way down. Then you'd see a few with just missing roofs. And then you'd see a bunch with blue roofs already on them. And oh, by the way, not often that I'm going to say this, shout out to FEMA. There's already, the number of blue roofs that are already up is really pretty phenomenal. You don't think about the timetable here, but the number of blue roofs that are already up is just, it's staggering to see, that there are that many homes that took damage, sustained damage, but they're still livable, even if they don't have power yet. And they've already got a blue roof up on top of them. So they don't have to worry about, rainstorms in the near future. Just general rain. Of course, another big storm comes this way, they'll be in trouble. But for now, they've got blue roofs up and running. So Lafitte, La Rose, you'd see a lot of damage, a lot of devastation. A lot of boats in the water just overturned within the water, which looks odd just because it's a bayou. This isn't like in the Gulf where you would expect there to be huge swelling waves and whatnot, but overturned big ships in the bayou or big boats in the bayou, some of which lifted up out of the bayou and landed on land, lifted up out of the bayou and landed in backyards, driveways, roadways. There was no shortage of that either. But getting down to Grand Isle, like I said, Bridgeside Marina has a lot of work in front of it. The big hotel, I don't remember the name of the hotel. The big hotel in Grand Isle is basically gone. I'd be hard-pressed to believe that they wouldn't have to rebuild from scratch. That took a ton of damage. And then just flying along the coast, looking back, like flying west to east, looking back at Grand Isle, It just ran the gambit. Everything from some houses completely untouched to some houses losing roofs to some houses or camps or whatever. There were a few spots where it was just the stilts coming out of the ground and no house to be seen left on top of it. Now, I will say this. The further east you went, the better it got. The further east you went, when you got to the state park point of Grand Isle and beyond, everything that was built after Hurricane Katrina, under the new specs, under the new regulations, everything that was built to withstand Katrina or better, did just fine. So there's going to be ongoing debate as to whether or not areas like Grand Isle should even be inhabited. Because in the amount of time it's going to take to rebuild Grand Isle, you can almost book there will be another hurricane. And it will be a good 2 steps forward, 2 steps back for some time until it's fully up and running again. But when you look at the way it was rebuilt after Katrina, those structures fared so much better than a lot of the older stuff out there. That's not to say that all the older stuff got demolished. But it is to say, if you looked at the new stuff versus the old stuff, the new stuff did all right. Also, there are still areas of Highway 1 that are completely impassable, or at least as of Saturday they were, still underwater even. And Port Fourchon took damage throughout. You'd see the big harbors that are out there, just roof ripped off, things just floating in the water that were part of structures before. There was a heck of a lot of damage. The road to recovery down there is going to be long for everybody, but in talking to people on the way down there and back, we're built for it. We are built for it. It's an important thing to remember. If you broaden the conversation out, if you watch national news, first of all, stop. If you spend most of your time on a national news station, stop. Because they're not telling you the story from here. They're telling you the story from a clicks and views perspective. They're also giving you a perspective that does not have our will and our way of life built into it. But the perspective down there leaves me feeling very, very positive about the future, about rebuilding, about who we are. And we run into this not just with Ida, but with every storm that's passed through. And that's not relegated to just those areas. That is relegated, across the state. We've been reminded a number of times in the last week that Southwest Louisiana is still reeling from Laura last year. They're not forgotten, but they are still reeling. So it begs the question, when the next storm rolls through, whose turn is it going to be then? Oh, by the way, that's worth checking in on right now. There are two active, there's an active storm and an active disturbance out there right now. There is an active disturbance in the Gulf of Mexico. It is just north of the Yucatan Peninsula. It's a disorganized disturbance full of showers and thunderstorms over the northern portion of the Yucatan Peninsula and south central Gulf of Mexico. It is expected to move slowly northeastward over the central and northeastern Gulf of Mexico during the next couple days. This disturbance has a 10% chance of forming into a named storm over the next 2 days, 30% chance over the next 5 days. Here's the thing, though. It is going to continue to move. And what's worrisome about it is it's coming to us from the same place that Ida did originally. I don't think it's going to have a whole lot of chance of making it as a storm, because it's covered so much ground already. This isn't like Ida where it formed, it got itself together. This has been disorganized from the start. There's that one, and then there's also Hurricane Larry. Larry is out in the Atlantic right now, going to be more of a threat to the Atlantic, not to us. And Larry is still at major hurricane status. It's got 120-mile-an-hour winds, but it's going to make its way north and not bother us at all. 646, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. A number of folks were transported to basically a warehouse. Senior citizens did this, transported to a warehouse. 4 people died. What happened? There's an investigation that's opened up. Attorney General Jeff Landry is going to join us in our next segment to talk about it. So let's break right here. Come back after Your Money Now and talk with Jeff Landry. Eric says I'm back. No power though. Yeah, power's gonna be. Erica, I think you're in Livingston Parish. It's gonna be slow going, man.
Pizza Artista, next to Sprouts on Perkins, is the newest and best option in gourmet pizzas. With the largest selection of ingredients, Pizza Artista is perfect for carnivores, vegans, or vegetarians.
Your money now.
Experience Pizza Artista. Experience amazing.
Play your favorite casino games and sports bet for free. Visit betrivers.net. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Talk 107.3, the new flavor of talk.
Hey, I think I left room to where I don't know if there's room for my live read here. Grab the phone. That's Jeff. Yeah, it should take us all the way up.
Let your community know you're open, how you're helping to keep them safe, and how your business is operating in the current conditions. Your message to your customers is key to the success of your business.
Eric says I just got a quote for an underground propane tank 2 weeks before the storm. Let's say that's happening for a standby after this. You know, I've been debating it for some time, and I'm kind of leaning towards it. You might have to cut this right after the traffic. No, the traffic, because we're going to run up against Your Money Now. It's going to overlap by about 10, 15 seconds.
Yeah, you don't want to turn it on at 50, but what you don't want to do is turn off that pot. The trick is finding a clear place.
All right.
When it's done plummeting, you don't want to put it back on. Yeah, well, it's got a so it's a minute of market report, minute of spots, and then put that.
Vaccines are not enough, and accurate thermometers are essential for everyone. COVID is once again a major concern, and fever is the key symptom for both the flu and COVID. An accurate thermometer, like the Exergen temporal scanner, is essential to detect fevers early and reliably. Studies have shown that non-contact thermometers used widely since the start of the pandemic are ineffective. Now is the time to be more vigilant about accurate temperature taking. Exergen is working with a single focus to ensure that everyone who needs an accurate thermometer can purchase one. Learn more at exergen.com.
Asthma symptoms can attack anywhere, like on a city street. Now you can get fast relief anywhere with new improved Primatene Mist, the only FDA-approved asthma inhaler available over the counter. So whether you need relief on symptoms at the park or at your kitchen table, Primatene Mist starts working quickly, opening up your airways to restore free breathing. For temporary relief of mild symptoms of intermittent asthma, use Primatene Mist and breathe easy again. Available at CVS, Rite Aid, and Walgreens. Use as directed.
652 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. CBS World News Roundup coming your way in just a little bit. Right now, though, as we continue our look back on what happened during Hurricane Ida, one guy's office who is definitely diving into one event that happened, actually more than that, but is Attorney General Jeff Landry. He joins us now. Attorney General Landry, good morning. Welcome back to Talk 107.3. How are you, sir? Doing all right this morning. Your office gets very, very active in a time like this. I want to get into fraud, scams, the like, into a little bit, but I got to start off with something that I know you can't really talk about, and that's an ongoing investigation. I got to ask, because this is alarming to say the least. So let's walk through. Hundreds of people were taken to a warehouse during Ida. 4 people died. Walk us through from there. What brings your office involved, and what do we know to this point?
Well, look, Brian, actually, it's up to 7 now.
Oh, my.
It is a very troubling and disturbing story. There have been multiple issues involving our elderly during this hurricane evacuation and during the oncoming or coming ashore of Hurricane Ida. Mm-hmm. Our office is working a number of these matters. And, of course, we can't comment on them because they are investigatory in nature. And so, we just don't put any more statements out than the ones that we had put out. In fact, I went as far as putting out a video release that I think is on our social media outlets. And also, I'm pretty sure they put it on our website, agjefflandry.com. We put a press release there as well, where everyone can go to find out what we put out. But other than that, unfortunately, I'm going to have to decline on commenting because, again, we're in charge of the investigation. Here's what I will tell you as to why we're in charge of the investigation. Mm-hmm. The Attorney General's office has a Medicaid fraud unit, and that Medicaid fraud unit is also in charge of taking on calls dealing with elderly abuse, because a lot of times in these nursing homes, these patients are Medicaid patients. We also work in conjunction with the Office of Inspector General at HHS. That's the federal arm Department of Health, and their Office of Inspector General. And so we'll work with them sometimes not only on a Medicaid case, but on Medicare cases as well involving the elderly. And then lastly, I'll just say this. It is just unconscionable that we have not taken better care of our elderly in these times of crisis. I mean, these are the folks that have brought us to where we are today. Remember, they have laid the path that we walk upon, and we should be doing everything we can to make the rest of their lives, right, however short or long they may have left, as comfortable and as enjoyable as possible.
100%. And in the meanwhile, though, the families of those 7 who have died are going to be looking for justice quickly. Traditionally or historically, a process like this, an investigatory process like this, especially in the wake of a storm where there's so much chaos, can be a lengthy process. So for those who are looking for swift justice here, they might have to be a little more patient.
Well, look, we would certainly ask the families to have some patience with us. We, unfortunately, just like our statements put out, were not notified until the media outlets actually broke the particular story. Mm-hmm. But as soon as they did, we've had folks on the ground, and this is an ongoing investigation, and we will get to the bottom of it. We ask for their patience. We ask for the audience's prayers as we pray for those families. And basically, we should be praying for everyone who's been impacted by this storm. Because this storm has impacted probably a quarter of the population of the state of Louisiana, and I've seen firsthand the destruction.
Yeah, as have I. I got a good look at it over the weekend in person, and it's brutal. Attorney General Jeff Landry is our guest. Well, speaking of a lot of that widespread destruction, let's talk about what your office does in a time like this, getting people ahead of the game when it comes to scams, fraud, and the like.
Well, we are one of the partners in what's called the NCDF, which is the National Center for Disaster Fraud, which is actually set up in Baton Rouge, of all places. It was set up after Hurricane Katrina, and it's kind of a clearinghouse for reporting fraud during times of disaster. And so we put out a couple of things. Number one, at the very beginning, we put out good information so that people who want to be charitable, who may not have been impacted by the storm and want to give, we want them to be able to give, and we want those dollars that they give to be able to go to those most affected by it. All right? And so we put out great information. All of this information I'm going to tell you is on our website at agjefflandry.com. And then Then, of course, as people's lights are starting to come on, as they're starting to get potable water, as living conditions begin to improve so that people can clean up and start to rebuild after the storm, we always want to make sure that they do not become a victim of contractor fraud. You have tons of people coming in from out of state and even some in state who will take advantage of us because they know that people have a lot of anxiety. They want to get back on their feet as quickly as possible. So we always look. The one thing that I love, we created this during the flood back in 2015 is take a selfie with your contractor. So before you engage in a contract, take a picture with that particular person. Take a picture of their license plate. That way, if they do defraud you or if there is some sort of legal action you have to take, at least you will have some starting point to be able to find them. But we've got a lot of good information on our website at agjefflandry.com.
The selfie thing has been a point of contention because a lot of folks feel like that's intrusive, but anybody who would push back at that is likely up to no good in the first place. If they don't want their picture or their license plate in such a time like this where they're just rolling up in a truck from out of state, there's probably a reason for it.
Well, look, those people, here's what I would tell you. Those people, if they're coming in from out of state, they're having to stay at a hotel, right? They've got to give their driver's license at that hotel. Yeah. Those people take a pic. Most hotels, when you check in, they'll take a photocopy of your driver's license. So, taking a selfie, if those contractors shy away from that type of activity, I would urge citizens to shy away from doing business with them.
Absolutely. And in the meanwhile, all the pertinent information is available on the website. He is Attorney General Jeff Landry. We greatly appreciate the time this morning, sir.
Thank you, Brian.
All right, thank you. We appreciate having him on. And, yeah, it's going to be something to be on the lookout for in the near future. I mean, when I say near future, I mean from now for months from now. Let's get you caught up on the CBS World News Roundup on Talk 107.3.
Protect your retirement.
I know I still owe you Mathurns. 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. as long as the curfew's in effect, then it's back to regular hours. No, it was as of Friday, so.
This is about a 7 minutes newscast, roughly. You take the full or you take 4 minutes?
Take the first 4 minutes.
Is this the guaranteed for, or is this the one I gotta listen for?
It's one you got to listen for.
In traffic, we'll do a traffic report, and then after traffic, they'll do a weather. After weather, they'll do the second hour open, and you'll get ready for the top stories and trending, which has an open and a couple number drops, 5 1, 2 1. Yeah, probably a good idea. I would use your far right one for your intro. I typically like to use the one on the end to play the top stories and trending like intro with the trailing music, and then one in the middle for the numbers. Yeah. What it is that these two parts, think of this in quadrants. That's all on the stack. These two run off the stack, and that one's off the top. Yeah. I have more talks on that board. We build it out. Running out of space.
1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so BR Baton Rouge power outages would be that one. Excuse me. You wanted a break right there.
Now, your WBRZ traffic update from Ashley Fouché.
We don't carry the spot right there. Since it's floating, it's not required by our contract, so we bail, we catch traffic, and then we hit the open.
To this area here known as the safety triangle. Actually, it looks like now they're just moving out of the way completely, going toward I-110.
Yes.
So we're in traffic.
I'm gonna knock out that Mathern's live first. No. Yes. It's that Swedish House Mafia bump.
All the lanes are clear and the safety triangle. Traffic should recover pretty soon.
I'd say hour 2.
See an accident reported at WBRZ traffic on Twitter.
This report is brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get up to $170 with the purchase of 4 Toyo passenger or light truck tires. Visit ShawbillsTire.com to learn more.
.705 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Hour 2 of Mornings with Brian Haldane coming your way right now. Brian here with you. Jake Barty producing. We are off and running in this second hour. Adam Knapp from the Baton Rouge Area Chamber is going to join us this hour, as is Dr. Cade Brumley. This is we speak with Dr. Brumley on the first Tuesday of every month. This month being no different. This is the first Tuesday of the month, and a lot of folks are still out of school. A lot of folks will be back to school very, very soon. We'll talk with Dr. Cade Brumley at 7:35. As far as our conversation with Adam Knapp from the Baton Rouge Area Chamber, clearly there's no shortage of topics there. We're going to get you to top stories and trending in just a minute, but first I do need to tell you that it is game week in Baton Rouge. I know. Everything is piling up to make this look like it's not a real game week, right? LSU goes on the road, puts up a stinker in Pasadena, California. We've all got stuff to deal with the hurricane. Like, do we really, really need to start thinking about game week just yet? Yes, you do! Because it's our first opportunity to tailgate in 2 years. Yes, tailgating will be back on LSU's campus, which means I need to tell you about the folks over at Mathern's, Nicholson and Skip Burtman Drive. Now, when it comes to servicing tailgaters, they've got you set from all levels. Whether you've got the big setup and you need to swing by, get ice, get beer, get the full menu, they're a full-service grocery store. They can help you there. But here's where they really come in handy. Are you one of those light-traveling tailgaters who bounces from tailgate to tailgate? Swing by Mathern's. You get your drinks. You can get something to go, eat to go as well. Mathern's, Nicholson and Skip Burtman Drive. It's in the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center. It's right across the street from Tiger Stadium. So whether you're loading up for a full tailgate that you host, or whether you bounce from tailgate to tailgate, they've got you covered on both ends of the spectrum. And oh, by the way, they're a full-service grocery store every other day of the week too. So knock out your groceries over at Mathern's. All right, let's go. It's time for top stories and trending. Let's get it.
Now, top stories and trending
5, 4, 3, 2, I let one go.
on Talk 107.3 FM. The most trusted name in news. Brought to you by Complete Collision Center, with locations in Zachary and Baton Rouge. Don't let who you choose to repair your vehicle be your second accident. Choose CompleteCollision.com. I want to know absolutely everything that's happened up to now.
Number 5. There you go. Well, as of right now, Entergy is down to fewer than 500 customers in the East Baton Rouge parish that are without power. In fact, fewer than 1,000 in East Baton Rouge Parish that are without power. As of this morning, 919 Entergy customers in East Baton Rouge are without power. One of those pockets is on Old Hammond Highway, the portion of Terra subdivision that is right next to Old Hammond Highway. In fact, a lot of that is due to a car that smacked into a downed power pole in the middle of the hurricane. That made things infinitely worse, but Entergy is hard at work. What was 160,000 customers without power as of a week ago is now down to 919. Statewide, Louisiana is reporting 141 hospitalizations as a result of carbon monoxide poisoning over the course of the last week. Louisiana Department of Health said yesterday, along with the hospitalizations, 4 people have died. LDH urges residents to use generator safety protocols by the Office of the State Fire Marshal. Leave your generator outside, preferably 20 feet or more away from your home. Look for any air entry points into the home near your unit to ensure that those are properly closed and sealed off. Windows, doors, air intakes, it's all a possibility. Also, get yourself a CO2 alarm. The governor signs an order allowing hotels to prioritize rooms for first responders. Governor John Bell Edwards signed the order yesterday. The state of emergency amendment also protects healthcare workers and individuals performing disaster or emergency-related work. This amendment will expire on Friday, September 24th. It could be reviewed if needed, but basically it gives first responders priority when checking into a hotel. It's going to be interesting to see when folks come to town for LSU football this weekend if they get bumped for first responders. That's we'll keep an eye out. Number of school systems reopening this week as of, what's today, the 7th? Yes, it is the 7th. Ascension Parish, Baton Rouge, EBR schools, diocesan schools, Catholic schools in Baton Rouge, Central Community Schools, Baker schools, East Feliciana Parish schools, all back in school today. Iberville Parish, LSU, Southern University, St. Mary Parish, West Baton Rouge, West Feliciana, Zachary Community Schools, all back in as of today, which leaves St. Helena, Assumption, Livingston, Southeastern, Tangipahoa Hill Parish Schools, St. John Primary, and a number of St. John Primary is back in today as well. But, yeah, those are the ones that are back in as of today. Of course, by this point, it's 7 o'clock. You should know if you're going to school or not, right? Charges are likely coming next for the adults responsible for caring for a 2-year-old that was reported missing, later found dead in an apartment complex pool late Monday. East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office says little boy was reported missing Monday around 4 p.m. The child's body was later found in the pool at the Reserve at White Oak apartment complex off South Harrells Ferry Road. Quote, "This is a very active investigation. It's still ongoing, but we do foresee charges," said Casey Raymond Hicks with the Sheriff's Office. The family told our news partners at WBRZ the child was missing since 3 p.m. Hicks said the parents last saw the boy around 10 a.m. Monday morning. A neighbor said the missing 2-year-old was walking around the apartment complex unsupervised with another child around 10:20 Monday morning. That is a look at your top stories. Here is a look at what's trending this morning. The linemen, and line women for that matter. The morning after Labor Day, just over 399 Entergy customers in Louisiana are waking up to either darkness and or dangerous heat and or lights and AC that are fueled by a generator. It's been 9 days since Hurricane Ida's assault on the Gulf Coast. The hurricane left a trail of flooded homes, shredded power lines, and structural damage that will likely take months to repair. In the meanwhile, though, you can report on 400,000 in Louisiana are still without power, but we do need to remember that number was above 1 million just 1 week ago. That's top stories and trending right here on Talk 107.3 FM. We are due up for a quick break. When we come back from that break, Adam Knapp, CEO of the Baton Rouge Area Chamber, will join us to talk about what's going on in the wake of Hurricane Ida in our own backyard next.
Hurricane Ida has impacted Louisiana and your
All right, good job.
insurance agents are ready to help. If you are a Louisiana Farm Bureau insurance policyholder and need to file a claim related to the storm, call 866-275-7322. Any policy information you have is helpful but not necessary. Again, if you have Farm Bureau insurance and need to file a claim, call 866-275-7322 or contact your local Parish Farm Bureau office. Louisiana Farm Bureau Insurance. Real service, real people.
Meet our team of attorneys
Yes,
at
in this
Murphy Law
hour,
Firm of
mean, it's going to take me a year and a half to delete all the emails from last week.
Start with the cloud data.
Do what?
Start with cloud data.
Repairing our roads and bridges, upgrading electrical systems, and
Yeah.
increasing access to information systems is good for our families, good for America, and good for our future. Thank you, Senator Cassidy, for leading the way on the infrastructure plan.
Excuse me. Brutal.
No.
How long do I have?
Hey, Dave Ramsey here. Every day I talk to listeners from all walks of life about their journey to financial freedom and how they can get there. But right now, I want to take a minute and talk to all you local businesses.
Wonderful.
Guys,
We'll be
it's
back
gonna
on
be
air in
okay.
a moment. We'll
We're
get
going to
you
get
on.
through this together. It's important to keep your business relevant right now because it'll really affect how you come out of this crisis. I want you to keep reaching out to your customers and your potential new customers right here on local radio. Let your community know you're open, how you're helping to
Oh, Adam's on already?
how your business is operating in the
Good.
current conditions. Your message to your customers is key to the success of your business. Get your
Traffic.
message
Yep.
on the air. And remember to stay safe and stay calm. We are going to be all right.
Dave Ramsey, weekday afternoons from 1 to 4 on Talk 106.
Should have asked how many cases of price gouging have been reported. I haven't heard any yet, but I will follow up with that. We've got them on 2 weeks from now, so we'll check back in for sure.
Traffic map, things are getting back to normal here. We're seeing delays across the Mississippi River Bridge from a breakdown that's now gone. Still slow moving across. Again, that's the eastbound side, kind of in recovery mode there. And traffic slowing down coming in from down. This is the first time in more than a week that I've seen this slow down here. Let's take you outside and check on our cameras. We're seeing those delays again on the bridge and coming in from down.
Okay.
Not so bad in Prairieville.
See an accident? Report it at WBRZ Traffic on Twitter.
This report is brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get up to $170 with the purchase of 4 Toyo passenger or light truck tires. Visit ShawbillsTire.com to learn more.
$7:16, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. So, what are the short-term and long-term impacts of Hurricane Ida in Baton Rouge? Joining us now to talk about that, Adam Knapp from the Baton Rouge Area Chamber. Adam, good morning. Welcome in. How are you, sir?
Brian, good morning.
Glad to have you on here. Glad to be talking about how quickly so many have recovered, but there is still a lot of work to be done. Let's start with the good news, though. What are we seeing in the week since Ida as far as recovery is concerned?
Well, the good news is that the power has come back on for so many so fast. Of course, it is sensitive and obviously is still a huge issue to not talk about those that are still without power, significant parts of our region that are still trying to get powered back up in Livingston, Ascension, in St. Helena, and East Feliciana. So a lot of others as well, but those are some substantial places where we've got a lot of outages. The other big, I think, positive, as we all see, is just the amount of coming together that's out there, right? It's always kind of the most heartwarming part of this is while we go through these very serious trials that we take care of each other, we take care of strangers, we take care of those that are helping each other and helping all of us. So it's one of the most kind of, conflicting points of a disaster is just how heartwarming it is to see people helping while there's so many in need and so many struggling.
Absolutely.
The other big thing I think that's a great story is the schools that are able to get open, that are planning to be open as of Wednesday. As we saw during the pandemic, frankly, getting education back in place is such an important piece of our own recovery that it helps the individuals in the school system to get to normalize. It also helps those families that you're struggling to get back to work and get back to a normal routine until you can get your kids and their school situations normalized again. So starting tomorrow, many of the region's school districts getting back into operation tomorrow. and a few remaining that are going to announce assessments today. We think about what their plans are for getting reopened. And you covered some of that, but I appreciate you kind of thinking about the role that plays for business and recovery as well.
Oh, no, 100%. These are all things we learned during COVID as well. Is that if the schools are closed, a lot of the parents can't go to work. So those two things go hand in hand as well. As far as the businesses that are back up and running versus not, do we have numbers as to who's still out?
So no, unfortunately, the data that's reported is general to all utility connections. So it's almost impossible to be able to separate those out, at least as far as we've been able to get data on from this event. So maybe something we can try to get variation on later. But I think that's if it's out in the parishes, you're substantially still affecting small businesses at an equal rate. It's kind of how we can assume that. So again, businesses in Ascension and Livingston that are still out having a lot of challenges. A couple of things that have happened that I wanted to just call attention to. One, if there are small businesses that need a temporary place to work, we put a link on our website at brac.org/prepare. First thing on the page is if you need a temporary workspace with power and AC and Wi-Fi, you just need to get into for service business or whatever else it might be, just to get a cool air and some Wi-Fi and some power. You can find those listed on our website. Tons of those. We've been really happy to push the word out about that. The other thing is this, those that are still displaced in some of those parishes that still have 98% outage and worse, expect to be there for a long time. We're trying to make sure that our friends down the bayou will find out about resources for short-term locations just to help out. And that as much as anything is trying to goodwill to say if we've been able to get power back in Baton Rouge, we're trying to get folks places to sit while they need to just be remote to get set up for their businesses or their jobs.
All right, I'm glad you led with this temporary workplace list because I saw the email last week. I pulled up the list. For those that are interested in adding themselves to this list, what do you need to be able to provide to be a temporary workspace?
Just if you have power and Wi-Fi and you have a desk that is in your office or in your business that you want to be able to loan out, or if you've got a whole piece of real estate, small business is back and temporarily vacant, let us know. We're trying to just let folks know that they can locate somewhere temporarily, not having to get a 6-month lease or a year lease just to come in and work in a place for a short-term period. There are some co-working spaces, but really these are more informal even than co-working spaces, right? These are just desks with Wi-Fi, as basic as it gets, just to have a place to go and operate out of. And for those that have those, we're making sure that list is updated each day.
Right. So it's not limited to those that would otherwise rent office space. This could be as simple as we've got a conference room we're not using. Wi-Fi's up, lights, AC, the works. We're up and running over here. Come borrow our conference room.
Like, for example, we appreciate the YMCA reached out to us early on, said, hey, we've got space if anybody needs it. And, we had folks calling and asking where they could go and sit. So we were connecting folks to the Y and then found out of many more options of where we could direct people. So we've got a nice growing list up there. Just advising that that's a resource, especially for those in this region. But even if you're outside of this region and the southeast portion of the state and just need a place to temporarily operate, please spread the word if folks need access to a place to sit. We're trying to keep building that list.
Absolutely. We will put a link up to the document when we post this on demand after we're done here this morning.
There's a big thing I'll mention, Brian, just on that same point of connection, a really cool service that our friends over at GNO Inc. have launched, which is our kind of corollary organization over in New Orleans that does economic development over there, launched a program called Power Match. So if somebody no longer needs their generator and it could help a small business in a place that doesn't have power to get restarted, we've been pushing out the word about Power Match in our region since as folks are getting power back, they might want to loan their or lease out their generator for a short period to somebody else who can come up, grab it, and use it for a little period. It's kind of a one-to-one connect, but you put your generator availability on there, and if somebody needs it, they can reach out and ask for a connection to a generator, all the way up from just a house generator up to a 500 kW generator. We've got a bunch of folks who have reached out with lots of options. So you can I'll put that link on our website later today, but you can go to GNO Inc. And find the Power Match program as well.
Absolutely, we will do that as well. Let's broaden things out a little bit. Adam Knapp from the Baton Rouge Area Chamber is our guest. Traditionally, what is the Chamber's role in the wake of a hurricane to help your members?
So we'll put our team together on a calling effort to call businesses in the region to assess the challenges they are facing. And as we are doing so, we have a separate part of our team that when a challenge is discovered that needs to have some response, there's another part of our team that goes and tries to find a solution for whatever that problem might be, either specific to one business or a general challenge that we uncover, like some of the information you've been seeing on our website. And then a lot of that, when it becomes a sort of a comprehensive problem or piece of information that folks need to know, that's where it gets listed on our website as a kind of a general resource. And so our goal is really communication, outreach gathering, to contact companies, and then put resources in, make sure new resources are available out on our website. So a lot of that is just triage, outreach calling, and then trying to provide resources and information out to the community. To wit, I'd say the other thing that I think is super important, y'all have been hitting this, but if you haven't already, registering for FEMA individual assistance can also mean something to a small business. If you are able to get reimbursement from some of your expenses on your personal side, that it all kind of flows together when you can get yourself back stabilized, whether that's for receipt reimbursement or getting registered for an SBA loan if you ultimately need to get one. Going through all the processes for getting ready. So we're going to be putting information out about FEMA registrations and SBA even more today.
Yeah, and FEMA does point businesses towards the SBA very, very quickly. So whatever you can get handled on a personal end, make sure that gets prioritized in that regard, because they will definitely usher you over that way.
That's right. The other thing I would just mention for folks, we've been living through what is probably the most unexpected part of this experience has been just the fuel outage problems throughout southeast Louisiana, and watching them spread. That they've gotten a little better. It got as high as about 70% of gas stations without fuel toward the later part of last week. It's down as of a day ago to about 65%. Still an enormous amount of folks without fuel reporting through the Gas Buddy app. So just continuing to encourage folks to use that to try to find available sites when they're at the place where they're needing to fill up. That's been a challenge for power as well as for vehicle movement in and out of regions. So those lists have become hugely valuable.
Yeah, and I expect that'll get just exponentially better throughout the week this week. Because, when you look at the difference between filling up your car and half a dozen tanks to keep your generator running versus just filling up your car, demand's going to drop off the table. To go from 140,000 plus without power to 919, the number of generators that are still going to be in use drops significantly. That being said, though, the number of people who are going to be coming up to the Baton Rouge area from further down south and east seeking that same gas probably won't drop off in the near future either.
Well, the fact that Lafayette, New Orleans, and Baton Rouge, Lafayette 24 hours ago was 58% shortages of fuel, 61% in New Orleans, and still 65% in Baton Rouge. So you can see even with what's being reported across all of Southeast Louisiana, we're having shortages still.
Yeah, that Gas Buddy app has been really helpful over the last week. It's consumer reported, or user reported. So I don't know if it's 100% accurate, but everyone that I've talked to who's been using it it's been a dream come true.
Well, it's really clever that they turn it on in a disaster, and so want to make sure the word gets out there. This is something that we've been pushing out. Called you guys early on when we found out about this, and I think that resource is hugely helpful for folks to be able to plan when you're choosing to move in and out of a community, or trying to drive even to work. You got to make a decision how much fuel to have, so knowing where you can find it when you get there is critical. And so that tool kind of came in really handy. It continues to come in really handy. The other role that we play, Brian, is to make sure that we're tracking resources about kind of economic activity, about airport access, port, railroad access. We've been trying to make sure that we're giving you visibility to what's out there, as well as aggregating other services like, a lot of employers who are trying to situate their teams with housing, putting out links on our website about where you can find available temporary rental housing, those sorts of things. That's kind of the role that we play, is to try to make sure we're responding to the challenges we're hearing from our company.
What role would Baton Rouge have in picking up business temporarily that would be unavailable down the road or down the river, for that matter, would our rail and or port systems be useful right now for something that just can't be dropped off somewhere else?
Well, you're seeing that already as an example with what's happening in air service. There was a story a couple of days ago showing that we have expanded direct flights in New Orleans, since New Orleans has been down, with the Baton Rouge airport getting a direct flight to D.C. and Philadelphia, a few other places, just trying to deal with the incredible volume of flights. So that same experience is true. Now, remember, the port situation is different because the river was closed for traffic, and even though railroads were operational and the port was operational, it was waiting for the river to be open for clearance. So that has been a little different situation. Now it's in a better posture today.
BRAC.org has been a phenomenal resource throughout COVID-19 when it comes to helping small business get the help they need through PPP loans. I can only assume that the coming days and weeks are going to be the same from working the SBA through y'all.
It is going to be one thing that I think we're going to be doing more of in the next week to 2 weeks is trying to think about what the recovery phase looks like for businesses, especially how to navigate business insurance claims. And so we're looking at setting up midweek or late week a webinar with legal and insurance partners to help explain how do you navigate through the business insurance claims that you could be eligible for your business. Even if you were just interrupted for power and you didn't have any direct impact, that outage that creates an income gap may be an eligible claim on your insurance due to utility interruption, which is one of the features in some of our business insurance policies that are out there. So we're going to be putting together a webinar to explain all of those details and do a Q&A with folks later this week.
He is Adam Knapp from the Baton Rouge Area Chamber. We will continue to follow it, sir. Thank you so much for the time this morning.
Thanks for having us on.
Always. We check in every Tuesday with the Baton Rouge Area Chamber, and, yeah, they're going to prove to be a vital resource in the coming weeks and months as well. So we love getting them on to get y'all as much info as possible. Let's take a quick break for news, traffic, weather. When we come back, Dr. Cade Brumley, the State Superintendent of Education, joins us to talk about getting folks back into school in the wake of the storm and lays out a timeline for that. Coming up next. Anthony Blinken. Well, I mean, it's his job. I find his name hilarious because if you call him by his first initial and last name, he's Abe Lincoln. Yeah. Yeah. After CBS, we go local news, and then traffic, and then break, and then weather. Yeah.
I'm Jeff Palermo, the Talk 107.3 Baton Rouge Newsroom. Many people who are registering for disaster aid with Fema are receiving $500 in what is called critical needs assistance. FEMA spokesperson Patrick Boland says they are distributing the money to help pay for water, food, first aid, medical supplies, and fuel.
Anybody who's eligible for this program, housing, living situation has been disrupted by the pandemic. That accounts for just about everybody who's been impacted relative to their housing situation or with unmet needs.
Anyone who has been impacted by Ida should register with FEMA. Times-Picayune and the Advocate reports the Louisiana Department of Health approved Bob Dean's plans to evacuate
Do what?
700 nursing home residents to a warehouse in Independence.
Yeah.
The LDH says the plan was not properly executed for her.
Oh, it's all the same thing. They just have different reporters down there. all good.
down and traffic has still just been slow because of it. The breakdown is clear, but it's slower than normal crossing over the river on that eastbound side. You can see that traffic
Talk
jam
107.3.
here. If you're traveling in from Denham, another traffic jam on the westbound
Talk
side of
107.3.
I-12 at Range. Folks traveling under
Hello.
the speed limit anywhere between Cuban
This,
and Airline. That's a 23-minute
Dr.
travel
Brumley?
time through that stretch.
Wonderful. We'll be back on air momentarily. We'll get you,
reported
get
at
you on.
WBRZ Traffic on Twitter.
Thank you.
This report is brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get up to $170 with the purchase of 4 Toyo passenger or light truck tires. Visit ShawbillsTire.com to learn more.
He raids your fridge. Shabrada! Borrows your car without asking. Scratches? What scratches? He's your brother-in-law. I'll pay you back. He takes what's yours, and there's nothing you can do. But when identity thieves want to take what's yours, you can do something. LifeLock by Norton monitors your info and alerts you to potential threats. If you become a victim, they can help fix it. No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor
All right.
all transactions at all businesses, but you can save up to 25% off your first year at LifeLock.com using promo code.
You got any kind of
So the jury
rotaries or things this afternoon?
Do I have what?
Like any kind of meetings, lunch meetings, or
No, I just have to be done by 1 because my daughter's got early release due to time served. No, she's got an early dismissal from school today. Doing a whole bid. You mean? Hey, I came up with another one yesterday. Don't get a cart. Carry all your groceries, no matter how much you're getting. You mean?
I always get in that mindset when I go to Target.
Yeah.
I go, oh, I'm just getting a couple of things, and then I hit up the handy thing,
Yeah.
and I go, oh, I should have got the full one. But I always feel like the jerk if I don't leave my buggy when I go to my car, leave the buggy in the store.
Yeah.
When I've got like 2 bags.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, what am I doing pushing 2 bags in the car?
Right.
So I leave the buggy, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to show you, well, not show you, probably know how to do it. See if you can put in a best of Skippy
Yeah. Let's do that.
for the week. Anytime after the Monday meeting or whatever. Because I think they said they're going to be best of this whole week. I don't think he has a working studio.
He doesn't.
He was going to transition somewhere in Mississippi. He's going to maybe go to beach house.
If you ever feel like you're going crazy, you're not. No, you're not. The rest of the world has just slipped a gear. Join us weeknights at 6 on Talk 107.3, the new flavor of talk. Take a deeper dive into the stories that are important to you with the Fox News Rundown. Weekday mornings at 9 on Talk 107.3, the new flavor of talk.
Oh, hit the home button.
Storms will bubble up again this
Did you
afternoon.
highlight it
They'll be
something?
less
Anyway?
widespread than they were yesterday, but all areas will still have a chance to catch a shower.
So
Heavy
highlighting
downpour
something
will be
that would be-
possible, but there are no
It's either
flash
used to
flood
copy
watches
it
out
into
today.
another file.
Temperatures will max out in the upper 80s, and the areas that do not see rain will likely see heat index in the triple digits. Overnight lows will be in the low 70s. Wednesday will be a bit drier with just a few isolated showers and temperatures again in the upper 80s. Drier air will work its way in on Thursday, dropping the humidity and overnight lows down into the 60s.
Whoops. Unfortunate typo. I'll tell you about it in the next break. .738 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. We're going to dive in the next hour with Entergy. They're going to join us at 8:40 this morning to talk about, number one, the folks still remaining without power in East Baton Rouge Parish, but more to the point, the surrounding area, how long this is going to take in Livingston and Ascension parishes. That's next hour. Right now, though, time to talk school. A lot of schools going back today. A lot of schools still have to wait. Joining us now, Dr. Cade Brumley, the State Superintendent of Education. Dr. Brumley, good morning. How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me, Brian. I was really hoping that we would be using our call this month to talk about our Louisiana Comeback campaign, which we recently launched a few weeks ago. But I have a feeling we'll be talking about Ida.
We're going to be we'll see if we can squeeze that in on the back end, because eventually we're going to have to talk about the business of running the schools, man. It seems every month there's something new popping up that's getting in the way of that, and it has been challenging to say the least.
Well, we're juggling it, and you know, for the most part, schools across the state are up and running today. We just do have our impacted systems from Ida. You know, my best guess right now is we have about 250,000 students that are out and not in school. And if power restoration goes as planned, we're hoping that by next week we'll only be down to 175,000 that are out. So, you know, we're making progress.
How does this work from a statewide standpoint? I know it's not unique to this year. We've seen it in previous years as well, where, you know, a large group of students, a large chunk of the state, or some chunk of the state, has to be out longer than the rest. So how does this work to compare from a statewide basis, keeping up throughout, sorry about that, Dr. Brumley, keeping up throughout the year? How do you keep everyone on the same level?
Yeah, look, I mean, we're used to hurricanes in our state, but it just seems like the past couple of years have really been significant in terms of the magnitude of the storms we faced. Look, I'm on the ground today in Kenner. I'm calling you from Jefferson Parish today, where, you know, I'll be visiting with school leaders here and then over in New Orleans as well this afternoon, just to get a better sense of where they stand and what their needs are as of today. And what we can do as a state agency to help get them on track as quickly as possible.
Now, a lot of this is built into the calendar. I mean, we have hurricane days built in. I mean, unlike, you know, other states, we brace for this a little bit, do we not?
Well, you typically have a couple of days built in every calendar, but you don't have 3 weeks or a month built in.
Right.
You know, and I think that, you know, as I've talked about for several years now, I mean, I think about the opportunity that systems have to have a more fluid calendar where you're spreading those days out across the entire year, not just across 9 months. And so I just think as we move forward, we need to continue to think about flexibilities within the calendar so that we don't have extended periods of time where kids are out of school.
Now, for those who are out, and I know you're not thinking about testing right now, but for those who are out, we've already seen what being out of school for an extended period of time could do. We've seen that through COVID. When it comes to annual testing, what do we do there for makeups? I mean, do we just suspend it?
Well, no, look, we knew that we would have, you know, academic learning loss. And whenever we released our data about a month ago, you know, we saw that we were down about 5 points in terms of proficiency from 2 years ago, which was the last time we had tested. Now, if you stack that up across other states in the country, what you see is that our learning loss, we did relatively well compared to other states. I'm really proud of the educational community here in Louisiana. But the fact remains, we have learning to recover. We have learning to accelerate. And Ida certainly has not helped us with that. But we're going to continue to find a way to fight through this. We're gonna make it through. We released the Louisiana Comeback Plan a couple of weeks ago, and I think the investments there are the right ones, even for this storm. So we are still, you know, planning to be, you know, on track for our state testing at the end of the year.
Dr. Kate Brumley is our guest. We are talking about education around the state. Before we move on to, some of the other topics, let's get one more in on Ida. Have there been any assessments or reports of actual physical damage to school properties, or are we just looking at a matter of waiting out the outages?
No, we have damage. You know, we have structural damage, primarily roofs, at a couple dozen schools. You know, for the most part, if we can have power restored, if we can have water running, if we can have staff back in place, if we can have diesel to run buses, if we can have commodities for those school cafeterias, we can be up and running. But there are a few sites where we're going to have structural damage that would prevent students from returning to those buildings. However, system leaders across those impacted areas are looking at other opportunities and options so that they can get those kids back in school as quickly as possible as well. But, you know, again, here's a place where I think we have to be forward thinking. We live in Louisiana. Storms are going to come. And I think that there are things that we need to do in terms of preparation for schools to harden the grid, so to speak, that will allow us to weather these storms a little bit better than we're doing present.
Dr. Kate Brumley is our guest. We're talking about getting schools back up and running in the wake of Ida, but there's also other news to to cover. So since we have a few more minutes, let's dive back in. Where were you hoping to go today?
Look, we certainly have opportunities in front of us. We released a Louisiana comeback plan a few weeks ago, a tremendous investment of stimulus resource into our kids and into our faculty and staff to help recover some of the learning from COVID. And that plan focuses around three primary buckets. The first is attendance and well-being. So making sure that, our kids are back in our buildings, our families are re-engaged, and making sure they're well when they're there. The second part has to do with academic recovery and acceleration. So pouring a ton of resource into things like tutoring, after-school programming, summer programming, where we had just under 200,000 kids in our summer programming last year. And then the third piece being staff learning, just professional learning and trying to get better for our kids. And so you can actually go to LouisianaComeback.com. We continue to build out that site. You can select your parish, go in, look at the amount of dollars that they have received. We'll be loading that up with student data information. And then from a public transparency standpoint, in terms of the actual dollars that are being invested, we have a financial dashboard there as well where the public can go in and see where their local systems are spending their dollars.
Dr. Cade Brumley is our guest, the Louisiana Comeback Plan. So stimulus resources, is this money that's already allocated, or is this stuff that's still being talked about in Washington, D.C.?
No, these are funds that have been allocated. Louisiana received $4 billion, that's billion with a B, of dollars for K-12, and we received additional dollars for early childhood, birth to 4. And so we are trying to use those dollars wisely to get our schools up and running, to make sure our kids are in school every day, to make sure we are recovering and accelerating learning. And then in that early childhood space, you may not realize, but we oversee over 1,000 early care centers, daycare centers across the state. We're the agency responsible for that. And we have close to 100% of those up and running, minus those that are IDA impacted at the moment.
And when it comes to the academic resources moving forward with those, how quickly can we see those implemented?
Well, we are doing that now. So things like tutoring, after school programming, additional teachers and supports in schools. Those things are happening now. Additional social workers and counselors. That is happening across the state. We are asking every system right now to build their Louisiana Comeback Plan. Those are due to us by September 30th. And we hope that, it's a really aggressive plan over the next 9 to 10 months to recover as quickly as possible. And that's why we have to do everything within our power in terms of IDA to get our kids and our staff back in their buildings as quickly as possible.
How difficult is this to maneuver in the midst of an active school year?
Yeah, look, the challenges are plenty, but, we are a resilient people in our state. We have not been deterred. And our goal is to make sure that we're doing everything that we can do to help support our kids.
Yeah, it like when it comes to staff learning and the stuff like that, I mean, it's like changing a game plan midway through the game.
Yeah, and look, we can always use additional teachers in our state.
Sure.
It's an opportunity if someone is looking for a career change and they're thinking about teaching, teachlouisiana.net has opportunities available across the state. I would encourage people to look there, submit an application, and the professional teaching is the one that creates all others.
He is Dr. Cade Brumley, the State Superintendent of Education. Dr. Brumley, when we meet again next month, no more emergencies, man. Let's just get down to business.
We've all had enough. But we're going to push forward, Brian. Thanks for having me, man.
Always, man. Appreciate having you on. Appreciate that level of information. He is Dr. Cade Brumley. So stimulus dollars that are already being allocated right now, that's good news to say the least. Getting the remaining kids back in school, that will be the next task. Here in East Baton Rouge Parish, they're back in as of today. It's looking like things are on the uptick when it comes to St. Tammany and Jefferson Parish. Might be a little bit sooner than originally thought, but there are going to be a number of areas where we're just looking at it's going to be slow going from here on in. All right, we're due up for a break. We're going to check Your Money Now here in just a minute. When we come back for Your Money Now, we've got a ton of ground to cover in the outside in. So many stories from surrounding parishes, but we will start by checking in on the outage numbers from our surrounding parishes as well. Entergy is going to join us next hour with a full-on update. What are some of the pressure points or tougher points as they're trying to get folks back on in Livingston, Ascension, and the like? We'll get the latest for you from there. Quick programming note, got a cancellation for you. Congressman Troy Carter had to reschedule. He's got some other stuff going on, so he will not be joining us in the 8 o'clock hour to talk with us about, to talk at all. He had to reschedule, so we will hook that back up again next week. In the meanwhile, let's go ahead and take that break for Your Money Now. We'll check traffic. We'll come back with the outside in right here on Talk 107.3 FM, the new flavor of talk in Baton Rouge. I'm out 4 seconds early. State didn't report coronavirus numbers yesterday because it was a holiday, which means when they report numbers today, it's going to date all the way back to Friday's numbers. So we're going to have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. It's going to look like coronavirus has exploded all over us again. Yeah, I mean, you would think. All right. I got to figure out something to do at 8:15. Yeah, Troy Carter can't come on. Yeah. Do what? No. Yeah, I haven't had any lives this hour. Have I had any lives this hour? Live reads this hour. Okay. Interesting.
How do you choose the right attorney? I give you the answers at murphylawfirm.com. Don't allow insurance companies to take advantage of you. Make the right decision. Don't leave money on the table. Visit murphylawfirm.com or call the attorney Pete Murphy.
Yeah, I might do that. I'll split it between something storm related and then that. Hey, we're going to do cuts 7, 8, and 9. LRN cut 7, 8, and 9, that segment.
Which
7, 8, and 9. Hmm? You didn't see what?
sit in the spot, you can see the luxurious,
Oh.
see the lakefront, the luxurious suite.
Nope.
I saw the garbage cans outside.
We've had a lot of
Driving over
happiness
this
and
pizza box.
accumulated lots of stuff. Dependable storage wants your stuff. Now open.
You got 789, right?
Visit
Okay.
dependableStorage.com. Brian Kilmeade.
Idiot mayors and governors at the
I got to get you some promos for this show.
powered again. But the cases are not fatalities. If you are vaccinated, you don't have to worry about it unless you're lying about the effectiveness of the vaccination. So what's going to happen? The paranoid restaurateur who doesn't want to be
Restaurant
is
tour.
going to say, okay, don't stand in the bar. Okay, go wear a mask when you sit down. And people are going to say, I'm staying home.
Brian Kilmeade. Weekday mornings from 10 to 1 on Talk 107.3. The new flavor of talk.
Now, your WBRZ traffic update from Ashley Fouché.
Traffic in Baton Rouge is all it took was for one breakdown that briefly blocked a lane on the bridge.
For
And
outside in, do you want me to
ever
cut it
since,
eventually
traffic
when you
has
start
been
talking, or do you
bad
want me to
because
level
of
it?
this. This is affecting
Bring it
folks
down.
in Port
Yeah.
Allen
I'll
trying
talk
to travel
over it.
northbound toward the bridge. Folks coming in from Lobdell and trying to travel across. So things are slow on the bridge. Again, all from an earlier issue. So it's still jammed out there. And as you can see, a lot of people coming in from the west. What's going on here? It looks like some trucks appear to be merging. At first, I thought someone was walking around. Basically, what you
Yeah,
need to know is
you
it's slow
do the
across
normal
the Mississippi
rejoin,
River
and
Bridge
then he'll
on that
call for
east-south
the
side.
segment open.
See an accident? Report WBRZ traffic on Twitter. This report is brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get up to $170 with the purchase of 4 Toyo passenger or light truck tires. Visit ShawbillsTire.com to learn more.
.756 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Hour 2 wrapping up right here. We're going to meet up with the CBS World News Roundup in about 3.5, 4 minutes, giving us just enough time to step outside of East Baton Rouge Parish for a little segment we do every day called The Outside In.
It's time to step outside of East Baton Rouge and get inside our surrounding parishes.
About time for me to be hitting the old dusty trail.
Really explore space this time.
I mean, really. Yeah. Explore the space.
The Outside In, presented by BRPT Lake. With 6 locations and extended hours to fit your needs, BRPT Lake has got you covered. Schedule online now at brptlake.com. The Outside In is coming your way now.
Gotta get out of this town. Yeah, and go where? Where are we gonna go?
Oh, we're going to check in on power outages from around the area. We're going to start off with Entergy's numbers. East Feliciana Parish, from Entergy's standpoint, 100% back up and running. West Feliciana, Point Capee, West Baton Rouge, from Entergy's standpoint, look at one apiece without power right now. Now, the further south and east you move, the worse that's going to get. For example, Eberville Parish still has 1,234 Entergy customers without power right now. Ascension Parish, that number's 2,789. St. Helena, 1,060. Livingston, 6,559. Tangipahoa Parish, 40,231. Moving down the river a little bit, St. James Parish has 7,219, and St. John the Baptist Parish, 18,906. Of course, Orleans, Jefferson, and all the areas in southeast Louisiana, significantly worse. Let's move it over from Entergy's side to Demco's side. What are we looking at here? Well, Livingston Parish, every bit as bad over there as well. 18,573 are without power right now. In Ascension, that number's 4,858. Demco members without power. St. Helena Parish, they're still looking at 3,195. East Feliciana, 819. Tangipahoa Parish, 620. Everyone from West Feliciana with Demco is back on as of this morning. And in East Baton Rouge Parish, 859 are without power if you are a Demco member. 2 more stories to cover here in the Outside In, presented by Baton Rouge Physical Therapy, brptlake.com, brptlake.com. The first is a sad story coming to us from Livingston Parish, where after a month-long battle with COVID-19, a Livingston Parish Sheriff's deputy died yesterday. Sheriff Jason Ard said Deputy Laura James passed away after 26 years in emergency communications, 9 of which she worked as a deputy. Sheriff Ard also said James worked as a Livingston Parish 911 dispatcher for the Denham Springs Police Department. Moving over to St. James Parish, just over a week after Hurricane Ida struck, St. James Parish is working hard to recover, and the 7,000 area utility customers that are awaiting power restoration, at this point, they've set up an emergency use pharmacy at the Winn-Dixie on Highway 3125. That's the outside in. Here comes CBS News.
Protect your retirement. Visit safemoneyplan.net. It's 8 o'clock.
You know what? I might take this a different route. What? My guy Mike Steele watching over at GoSep this morning, listening at GoSep this morning for sure. I said, can you hop on at Can you hop on in about 15 minutes? He says, sure. I'll be a Troy Carter replacement. Yeah, ball. Really? Damn. Oh, you got the outside. I mean, you got this day in history. Cool. Do I have anything to contribute to that? I do.
All right, we've got a dose of regular
Whoa. How did I miss that? Oh, I wasn't there yet. That's how. Wow. We do hit weather here.
Showers and storms will bubble up again this afternoon. They'll be less widespread than they were yesterday, but all areas will still have a chance to catch a shower. A heavy downpour will be possible, but there are no flood watches out today.
Yep.
Temperatures will max out in the upper 80s, and the areas that do not see rain will likely see a heat index in the triple digits. Overnight lows will be in the low 70s. Wednesday will be a bit drier with just a few isolated showers and temperatures again in the upper 80s. Drier air will work its way in on Thursday, dropping the humidity and overnight lows down.
806 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Hour 3 of Mornings with Brian Haldane coming your way right now. Brian here with you, Jake Barty producing. Got a busy hour this hour. So we were supposed to have Congressman Troy Carter at 8:15. He had a last-minute conflict, had to bail, not to worry. Mike Steele from GOSEP going to step in and give us a full update on Hurricane Ida recovery. Then at 8:40, while we're talking Hurricane Ida recovery, Entergy is going to hop on board. Now, they had a number of challenges last week that looked like things were being, I don't want to say pushed back or delayed, but when you step away from the whole situation, like if you're in it, it stunk, right? But when you step back and look at the situation from afar, they got roughly 160,000 Entergy customers in East Baton Rouge Parish back online in 1 week's time. Now, there's still just under 1,000 that are without as of this morning. We'll talk about what's holding up those particular hotspots, but Entergy going to hop on board to talk about the work they got done last week and what's to come in the weeks to come in Livingston Parish, Ascension Parish, and then further in southeast Louisiana. So that's all coming your way for the remainder of this hour. Right now, though, this is the time of the show where we dial it back. We go back in time. Jake has got this day in history. What do you got, Jake?
Well, what's up, everybody? So start things off, we're going to take things back to 1630.
All right.
This day in history, September 7th, the city of Boston, Massachusetts is founded. Start off with something a little bit American here. 1813, the United States gets its nickname Uncle Sam.
Really?
America.
1813.
Mm-hmm.
Did not realize that was that old.
Taking it back to 1903, the Federation of American Motorcyclists organized in New York. Another American thing.
You going chronologically here?
Yes.
So if you've passed up a year, you've already passed it up?
Yes.
1892, Jim Corbett knocks out John L. Sullivan in the 21st round. In New Orleans, 21 rounds, I know. There's a boxing match in New Orleans to win the first ever world heavyweight title, fought with gloves under the Marquis of Queensberry rules.
Was that fight like 8 hours long?
21 hours in New Orleans? No, I'm sorry, 21 rounds.
Okay.
In New Orleans, I would guess. I mean, if it's still 3 minutes a round back then, with a minute in between each round, that's a long fight.
Yeah,
the undercard must have sucked.
All right, so taking it now to 1914, the New York Post Office building opens to the public. 1923, Interpol forms in Vienna. 1936,
Wait, Interpol was in 1923?
Yeah.
Why do I always think that was like started somewhere during the Cold War?
Couldn't tell you.
Okay.
1936, that is, Hoover Dam begins operation. Going 50 years in the future, 1986, a little bit of football history for us. Cleveland Browns becomes first team in NFL history to have a play reviewed by instant replay.
Oh, that's
Chicago
cool.
41, Browns 31.
All right. That's 1986, you said, right?
Yes.
So we're past 1979.
Chronologically speaking, yes.
Where on this day in 1979, the Entertainment and Sports Programming Network was launched. ESPN started today.
It's a very small company. It's kind of an upstart.
Right? Let's hope they can make it.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. In that same year, as I mentioned previously, 1986, Dan Marino throws his 100th career touchdown pass, the fastest QB in NFL history to do so. Now, in 2002, U.S. Open women's tennis, Serena Williams wins second U.S. title, beats her older sister, Venus Williams, 6-4 and 6-3. And that'll do it for at least historical events. Let's get right to the birthdays. We have Eazy-E, who was born in 1964.
No way.
Legend right there. We have a couple of basketball players today, oddly enough. We have Joe Harris turning 30. We have Kevin Love turning 32. We have Donovan Mitchell, Spida himself, turning 24. That'll probably conclude it for the basketball stuff. But we have Leslie Jones turning 53.
Go on, Leslie. You like Leslie Jones?
Not a fan.
Really?
It's not for me, but I don't hate on anybody that does.
She's like a female Chris Farley. Like she's super funny, but every once in a while it feels like she's trying too hard.
Yeah, it's really just pick your poison. Comedy
Sure.
is subjective. Not
Yes.
my thing personally. Next up, we have Toby Jones.
Burt Jones' birthday's today too, by the way.
Who?
Burt Jones.
Burt Jones.
Yeah. Former Baltimore Colts quarterback. Also Gloria Gaynor. I Will Survive.
Heard that.
Yeah.
This is a lesser-known thing for any soccer fans, I guess I'll say. I like to call it, European football. But Marcel
Football.
Desailly, French defender, turns 53. Absolute legend. That dude was insane back in his day. That'll conclude it for the celebrity birthdays. Now we'll get to the sad part of it, the deaths. Had to start it off with Mac Miller, who died this day in 2018. Absolute legend of the scene. Real shame. Next up, Keith Moon from The Who, the drummer. 1978, he died on this day. And then father of James Earl Jones, Robert Earl Jones, died on this day in 2006. Brian, you got anything to add to that?
Nope. All good.
All right, so we'll move it down to the holidays. You're going to like some of these. We got to start with our Lord and Savior, Google Commemoration Day. Our technological overlords are pleased. We have a whole holiday for them.
Really?
Next up, we got International Day of Clean Air. National Acorn Squash Day.
Nope.
Can't say I've ever had that, nor will I.
Oh, acorn squash? It's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Is that a thing here?
I mean, I don't know if it's a thing here. It's
Yeah.
just a thing. It's good.
I-
You roast it.
Gotcha. Can't say I'm too knowledgeable about acorn squash, but shout out to anybody that loves that. This is something everyone should love. National Beer Lovers Day.
It is National Beer Lovers Day.
Absolutely. Next up, we have National Grateful Patient Day.
Okay.
Something for doctors, I guess. National Neither Snow Nor Rain Day.
That would have something to do with the post office, I'm guessing.
Probably. And then to conclude this day in history, we have National Salami Day.
National Science, there should be the lead right there. I mean, salami's
start
more
with
important
that?
than Google. Yeah, big time. All right, Jake, always appreciate it, man. Good job. We are due up for another break. When we come back, we're going to check in with GoSep. Mike Steele's going to hop on the hotline next on Talk 107.3.
Hurricane Ida has impacted Louisiana, and your Farm Bureau insurance agents are ready to help. If you are a Louisiana Farm Bureau insurance policyholder and need to file a claim related to the storm, call 866-275-7322. Any policy information you have is helpful but not necessary. Again, if you have Farm Bureau insurance and need to file a claim, call 866-275-7322 or contact your local parish Farm Bureau office. Louisiana Farm Bureau Insurance. Real service, real people.
Meet our team of attorneys at Murphy Law Firm before you hire an attorney for your injury case. Visit murphylawfirm.com and your decision will be easy. Learn why we should be your attorney. Get to know us before you call main office.
All right, you need a little more juice on your mic. Yeah, well, yeah, during that segment, yeah. What up? What's happening, Chuck? I'm golden, dude. How are you?
Good. Nice recovery weekend. Nice to
Dude, I slept so much yesterday.
I did as well. It was also because I drank from 11 a.m. until 1 a.m.
So that plays into it as well. Got kind of drunk once or twice over the weekend. And by kind of drunk, I mean I got really drunk.
So when you come in the morning, this screen's always going to be like a different size. So what you need to do is go to the settings wheel, and where it says position, and just kind of get it to where
Hurricane Betsy Barnes. And I'm Dr. Kate Stiller with the Rocket Rank Show. We are two busy blondes on the
where you
go
had it
show
was
called Life
blocking
in
all this.
Louisiana.
And we don't
Watch
want
us
to
on
do that.
Pelican Sports
So all you have
Network
to do is just like
and Talk
minimize it to get it
1073 FM. Check
to get it kind of small.
Louisiana
And
Body
kind of like
Bistro
set in the
is the
corner
place
so
to
you can
love.
plug it.
Delicious Cajun goodness for lunch, dinner, or
like
family
that.
combo to-go meals. Limited
I
dining
can go,
for first
I can go across all the over all the YouTube stuff. I mean, it's easy. Cage has never started before, which is why he was calling me this morning. But, I mean, I was able to find it all just fine. It's just when I got onto this scanner, none of this is here. Yeah, that's yeah. When he FaceTimed me, it was like everything was black. I'm like, that's not how that should be.
Hotline, please.
Once traffic starts. Oh, man.
Yeah, dude, I got home. Well, I decided to not go home Friday night after I found out I had power. I'm like, I'm just go back. I'm gonna go back to the hotel. I'm gonna stay here tonight. I'll come home in the morning. On my way to the house in the morning, we make calls. Like, hey man, over coming home. The power was off again.
Yep.
You got to kid me. It didn't come back on until 9:30 Saturday night. I just went to a friend's house and hung out over there and watched the game.
Dave Ramsey, weekdays
Sorry about that.
1 to 4 on Talk 107.3, the new flavor of talk.
I was like, how many times was UCLA going to run that crossing route till you figure out, like, our linebackers have no clue where they need to be?
Baton Rouge traffic, it's bad traveling inbound across the Mississippi River Bridge. Really heavy delays right now. There was a breakdown that happened earlier, but ever since traffic has just been
Mike
slow
Steele.
because of that original problem, and then a lot of folks appear to be traveling on through our area right now, eastbound from Lobdell to Perkins 21. Also, traffic is jammed on I-110 southbound, approaching the 10-110.
Hey!
If you're traveling northbound on LA1 to from Port Allen to the Mississippi River Bridge, stuck in traffic there too. Here's what it looks like on the bridge. You can see those delays as you're trying to travel on I-10 westbound.
See an accident? Report it at WBRZ Traffic on Twitter.
This report is brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get up to $170 with the purchase of 4 Toyo passenger or light truck tires. Visit ShawbillsTire.com to learn more.
.817 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Try him again, Jake. Looking to hook up with Mike Steele here in just a second. He is with GOSEP and looking to get an update on everywhere throughout Southeast Louisiana. As up till yesterday, they haven't had their meetings and assessments today. Calling now. Well, we got a lot of ground to cover with Mike about what's been going on in the wake of Hurricane Ida. There's been a lot of very, very fast movement. FEMA is on the case for a lot of folks. I can tell you firsthand, I got to see a lot of the damage up close and personal. I should say up close and personal, from a couple hundred feet up via helicopter on Saturday. Lafitte, Lower Lafitte, LaRose, Port Fourchon, Grand Isle, all these areas had a ton of devastation. I was actually rolling with some of the folks that were looking at flood protection, and I got to tell you, we actually did a decent job. We, meaning the state of Louisiana, did a decent job when it comes to this storm could have been so much worse. So much of the flood protection that was – do I have the right number for him? This storm could have been so much worse when it comes to what we got. Is he not answering, Jake? All right. Okay. Yeah, please call. the flood protection, the levee systems, everything that was put out there that have been in the works since Hurricane Katrina held up pretty well. We could have seen much, much worse when it came to storm surge impacting areas within the levee system and even outside of the levee system where you had a number of different areas. Here, Chuck, come grab this number over here if I wrote it down wrong. Sorry, y'all. Doing it in real time. So let's talk about that and among a number of other things as well. Mike Steele from the Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness joins us right now. Mike, thanks for hopping on board this morning. I appreciate you filling in a pinch. We were supposed to be speaking with the congressman right now, and as soon as that segment came available, I said, you know what, let's get a full-on update. He is Mike Steele. Welcome, sir.
Hey, good morning, Brian.
Glad to have you on this morning. All right, let's start with, actually, I wanted to start with some of the good news. Because what we've seen is a lot of the work to protect us from storm surge, levee systems, and the like, looks like it held up really, really well. Can you give us an assessment of what we saw from the ground up when it came to protecting from levees?
Yeah, I think we were really fortunate that, we had all of those protective measures work the way they were supposed to. One thing I've noticed kind of a trend as you listen to talk shows and everything around the state, and as you look at some of the social media posts and everything, a lot of people, when you look back at previous storms, Katrina was obviously bad because of the levees and because of a number of factors. But people in other areas of the state basically said that Katrina was nothing compared to what they faced with this event when it comes to the wind damage and, the flooding and some of the other factors. We really took it on the chin. And the fact that these power crews and everybody have been able to cut these numbers in half for the most part, within a week's time is just remarkable. And the stuff that's being done at the local level, seeing these emergency managers hear the needs of what's going on in their parish and getting those requests into us and the way the guards executed, their portion of the plans and Red Cross and DCFS and everyone, DOTD, it's good to see things moving in the right way because we all have family here and we're all, kind of suffering through the same thing. So it's a day by day fight, and but you see a little bit of improvement each day, and that's kind of the best you can hope for at this point.
Absolutely. Early reports out of Tangipahoa Parish were really, really bad, as well as St. Tammany, but it looks like timelines there have chipped down a good bit to. It's looking like it's not going to be the worst case scenario in a lot of the Florida parishes. Is that about the right assessment?
Yeah, I believe so. I can't really speak for the parishes, at the very moment, but those are some of the things we're hearing. A lot of school systems are looking at trying to open up within the next few days, depending on what region of the state you're in. The coast is still, there's still a lot going on. But I've noticed just around here, you don't see the lines at the gas stations. I think the power restoration has helped with some of those issues. The estimates from the oil and gas industry were by the end of the weekend, things would really start to kind of ramp up as far as availability of gas and those things. So that looks like for the most part it came true. We're still in for a long, long fight, and the recovery is going to be a long process. We all know how complicated that can be. Just kind of recapping a couple of things from yesterday, we saw FEMA turn on their generator and chainsaw reimbursement program for the people that qualify for IA. Mm-hmm. So, we've been pushing a lot of information on getagameplan.org. We try to consolidate a lot of the information there, things like pod locations, the distribution locations for water and tarps and those type things. We're trying to update those as best as we can as we get the reports in from the parishes. Those things kind of shift sometimes hourly. So, we're trying to consolidate a lot of information on that site. I know the governor's staff has consolidated a lot of information on his website and social media. DCFS has been pushing out a lot of information about DSNAP and what's going to be available when it comes to those type resources. So, if you can help your family members kind of navigate through those things, some people are still dealing with power loss and may not have access to all those channels of information flow. So, we still need to kind of look out for each other on those type things and get through it.
One of the things I noticed over the weekend in touring some of the damage is the number of blue roofs that already got up there. What
Yeah.
goes into that coordination from GOSEP's office to FEMA to the National Guard? From GOSEP's office to the National Guard to FEMA as well, what goes into that level of coordination?
So I'm glad you asked about that. So the Blue Roof program through the Army Corps of Engineers has been turned on. But here's what happens with that. A lot of people, including people I know, needed tarps up before this program can really get up and going.
Mm-hmm.
But what most of us are capable of doing, like myself, for example, like I would just be able to get up and put a tarp on the roof and really just kind of hope that I'm doing it the right way. When these contractors come in through the Blue Roof program, they're professional contractors that'll come in and do it the right way. When we went through Hurricane Laura, and I think the governor has talked about this, you could see a big difference in Lake Charles between Laura and Delta when those storms hit on the blue roofs that were put up, maybe by someone at the home compared to the ones that were put up through the Blue Roof program. The tarps are better quality. They really, button it down to the roof the way it's supposed to be done.
Right.
And so people need to take advantage of that program. If there is kind of a downside to it, it's a massive move where you have to get the contractors lined up and the tarps in and resources in. And so all of that's really going to be ramping up over the next few days. But even if you've already done your roof yourself and you just want it done, a little more professionally, I guess would be the best way to put it, still sign up for that program because they can still come out and help. We still have, weeks to go this hurricane season. And, even with afternoon thunderstorms and everything, you don't want, leaks in your roof to be another problem, as we go forward. So 888 Roof Blue, BLU, that's the number for that program. It's a free program. You just got to get signed up. And then we're just asking people to kind of be patient for them to ramp that program up because it takes a few days because of how big it is.
Yeah, and the quality of the tarp or the quality of the blue roof is important because this is something that will withstand the everyday rainstorms, but will not withstand something that's of a tropical nature. That being said, it's not something you're getting with a coupon from Harbor Freight just for you get free with purchase. I mean, this is something that will hold up a little bit until you can get an actual roofer out there.
Yeah, and we actually did see some that held up, when Delta hit last year. I'm not saying that's like some type of guarantee or anything, but like I said, you could kind of tell the difference. You could see, the ones that were done, through the program a lot of times because they had the wood strips that were part of securing it in place and those type things. And so you could kind of tell that a lot of those, did hold up between the two storms. But, again, it's a free program that the Army Corps of Engineers turned on for us. And, we want people to take advantage of it as much as possible. Just, again, please be patient. These programs, especially if they're big moves like this, take a number of days to kind of get rolling.
Mike Steele with the Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness. Got two more before we get you out of here. Number one, that little yellow X that's just north of the Yucatan Peninsula right now, is that on y'all's radar? Is anything serious, or should we not really worry about that right now?
Well, it looks like it has shifted east. I can tell you it was causing some concern for us. You saw everything from this thing's just going to drift into the Yucatan and maybe Mexico or Texas, and then it kept drifting east. Now it looks like it's drifted all the way past us. But that's another thing. So a lot of people have, still have power issues. They may still have phone issues. And so if you're dealing with family members and everything, make sure you're keeping them up to date on these weather changes. Even if it's severe weather, we had severe weather flood warnings and everything across the state yesterday from Lake Charles all the way to New Orleans. So, it's difficult for some people to stay informed right now, but we're still in the heart of hurricane season. We've still got several weeks to go. I know we have a tabletop exercise that's being planned here at GOSEP to talk about how would we respond, God forbid, if another storm pops up. But we need to be ready for those type things just in case they do happen. And so the public, needs to be thinking about those things as well.
Outside of that exercise, what else is on tap for today from GOSEP?
So every morning we have meetings with the parish officials to see where they stand, what their potential needs are. We've had things like some satellite communication equipment that's been rolled into parishes to help with their connectivity, with the cell phones that they use at the parish level and their internet service and those type things. So we get all of those updates. There may be pod changes, or there may be, when I talk about pods, that's the locations where the guard or the parishes are out handing out, some of the basic things that people may need: water, tarps, ice, those type things. And so we talk to them about all those different scenarios. They typically give us some power restoration updates. And then, of course, the governor is going to have a UCG meeting with all the state agencies at 10:30 this morning to kind of go over all of the moves that have been made at the state level. And then, of course, the governor is going to have another briefing, I think, at 3 o'clock this evening here on the state police compound to update the public on all those changes.
And we'll be carrying that right here on Talk 107.3 FM. In the meanwhile, Mike Steele, thanks for stepping in a pinch, man. I appreciate the information.
You got it. Anytime. Thanks.
Absolutely. Appreciate him very, very much. All right, we're going to talk with Entergy in our next segment. Let's talk about some of those problems getting power back on. Where are we seeing some of the bigger issues within our listening area? Clearly, we know what's going on further down to the south and the east. But within our listening area, what are we seeing right now from Entergy's standpoint? Remarkable work been done over the last 7 days to get everybody in Baton Rouge back up and running. In fact, those numbers are down. Under 1,000 folks in East Baton Rouge Parish are still without power. That number was, upwards of 150, 160 after the storm. So we'll talk with Entergy in our next segment. Right now, though, we got to get you caught up with CBS News. Our local news, traffic, and weather. Mornings with Brian Haldane continues on right here on Talk 107.3 FM, the new flavor of talk. All right, thank you for getting rid of it very quickly. It's quick. No. Your quick reflex is good, but that's you got to be on top. Make sure that it's not not on.
Yeah, so
to be sure.
Like, if you're not playing any audio from him, like any spots that he sent you to play, like just keep both the Adobe and Internet pods off. Trust me, I've done it 100 times. I'm still doing it. It happens.
No, I'm more fixated on your quick response than the mistake. So it's the quick response. The positivity of the quick response is better than the mistake itself. So. Yep. Yes, it is. Tighten up, man. Sean says, I tried to get the Blue Roof program, but it doesn't appear that EBR is one of the approved parishes. I got a FEMA update right here that shows that we are. Dude, I'll find out, Sean. Hey, I'm on YouTube right now, right? Okay. I'll find out, Sean, to make sure. But, yeah, I've got Ascension, Assumption, EBR, East Feliciana, Iberia, Iberville, Jefferson, Lafourche, Livingston, Orleans, Plaquemines, Point Capee, St. Bernard, St. Charles, St. Helena, St. James, St. John the Baptist, St. Morton, St. Mary, St. Tammany, Tangipahoa, Terrebonne, Washington, West Baton Rouge, and West Feliciana. Well, no, this is monetary assistance. Yeah, that's monetary assistance, not necessarily Blue Roofs. Hey, I emailed you a link to a Google Doc that BRAC has up, the Baton Rouge Area Chamber. That's their workplace sharing document. If you would, please include that link when you post the segment with Adam Knapp. Yeah. Guarantee email. Thank you. Huh.
What's the numbers for Ascension?
From Entergy?
Yeah.
2,795. So 3,000 are left. Baton Rouge was down to 10,000 people without power before I got power back. I know. I don't understand. Like, Sherwood rarely is last in line. We got a lot of old people, man. We got a lot of old people and a lot of grids where you can get a lot of people back on at once. Those two things combined mean that something was definitely wrong in Sherwood. Like down power lines in people's yards and stuff. We saw people walk, like linemen walking into backyards. All right, I still haven't had any more live reads. No Baton Rouge physical therapy. No. All right. Okay.
That'd be the last one.
Jeff Carter here, CEO of Rocket Companies.
Have you not done
If you
BRP
thought
to
you missed
anything?
your chance to refinance and save, think again. Mortgage rates have recently dropped, and Rocket
I did complete collision in Mathurns.
call 8338 Rocket today. For example, with a $250,000 30-year fixed rate mortgage, you can get a new low rate under 3%. If your current rate is
Ooh.
1.75%,
Baton Rouge just went back to orange.
$100 a month, saving thousands in
Who did you say you did? You did complete collision?
Mm-hmm.
because no one knows how long these low rates will last. So if you need a simple way to get big savings, Rocket can. Call us today at 8338 Rocket or go to rocketmortgage.com.
Who else did you do?
That's 8338 Rocket.
Complete collision in Mathurns.
Yeah, there were two ads that were on the black magazine. No, that's just the commercial spots that are.
Brian Kilmeade.
That's a yeah, dude. That's like Mooyah is your next one coming up.
Okay.
Brian Kilmeade. Weekday mornings from 10 to 1 on Talk 107.3. The new flavor of talk.
Hey, it's Dave Ramsey. You can listen to me weekdays live from 1 to 4 p.m. on Talk 107.3, the new flavor of talk in Baton Rouge.
Stories of the day. Brian Kilmeade. Weekday mornings from 10 to 1 on Talk 107.3. The new flavor of talk.
Showers and storms will bubble up again this afternoon. They'll be less widespread than they were yesterday, but all areas will
Adam
still have a
Knapp.
chance to catch a few.
KNAPP.
Possible, but there are no
A nap.
flood watches out today.
Yes.
Temperatures will max out in the upper 80s, and the areas that do
What a lot
not
of
see
people did
rain will
yesterday.
likely
Took
see
A nap.
Like I woke up, I got a couple things, not like two things knocked out just from cleaning up around the house, removing extension cords that we wired all the way through,
Yeah.
taking the window unit out, like, and then I'd lay back down and I'd wake up and I'm like, it's 2 hours later. What happened to my day? And then we went out to the pool. So I spent the afternoon in the sun. Yeah. Come home, you know, a little bit tipsy, drinking Old Smoky Tennessee whiskey, amaretto flavored. So good. Yeah. It's diabetes in a cup. .838. Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Hey, is it too early to start thinking about lunch? No! It is not too early to start thinking about lunch. Let me tell you about the folks over at Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes. They got themselves back up and running late last week. And boy, are they off and running now. Get yourself your top-notch ingredients. I mean, the freshest ingredients available. Vegetables sliced fresh daily, cut fresh daily. The potato buns, baked fresh daily. Of course, it's the top USDA beef. It's the best ingredients plus the best service. When you walk in, they greet you as soon as you walk in. You get to know the folks that are there at Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes. Both locations, by the way, they do have two locations. One is on Seagan, just north of Industriplex. The other is on Bluebonnet, just south of Highland Road. Both locations are the same great service, same great quality, same great experience, from the best burgers to the best milkshakes as well. Oh, by the way, real ice cream milkshakes. None of that soft serve garbage here. Mooyah burgers, fries, and shakes. Oh, yeah, did I mention the fries? How about sweet potato fries and dip them in honey? This is so next level. Like, I'm a double Diablo guy. I like my burgers super spicy, right? It's got the Cholula sauce. It's got the jalapenos on it. It's got the pepper jack cheese. So I take that spicy of the burger, mix it down with sweet potato fries dipped in honey. I get the perfect spicy and sweet to complement my meal. Mooyah burgers, fries, and shakes. Segan just north of Industrialplex, or Bluebonnet at Highland.
Who do I have? Brandon?
Time for us to check in with the folks over at Entergy. Want to welcome on board. You know what? I never confirmed if I had Brandon or David this morning. Good morning. How are you?
Hi, good morning.
Who do I have this morning?
This is David Freed.
Hey, David. Welcome aboard, man. Glad to have you hopping on today. We got a lot of ground to cover from Entergy's standpoint. First of all, the amount of work that got done at East Baton Rouge Parish over the course of 7 days. I know if you're one of the ones without power, it's unbelievably frustrating. But just to see the numbers tick off the way they did, more than 150,000 customers in East Baton Rouge alone returned to power within 7 days. Let's talk about not just the effort to do that, but the 1,000 who remain without. What are the hot spots there? What are the holdups there?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, it's difficult to celebrate those wins, especially when we have thousands of customers that are still without power across southeast Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
This particular storm, it was forecast to go right over Baton Rouge, and jog a little bit to the west of New Orleans. Unfortunately, it seemed like that storm couldn't make up its mind as to which direction it wanted to go. When you look at the track, it looks like a snake uncoiled. It jogged to the east, back to the west, and for Baton Rouge, it jogged a little bit to the east, and so we got the west side of the storm. And Livingston Parish, Tangipahoa, and some of those areas got Category 2 hurricane force winds. And to those even further south, I'll tell you, I made it into Grand Isle and Galliano, La Rose, and some of those areas 2 days ago. And there's not a whole lot that's standing in terms of, utility poles and wire and so forth. There's a long road ahead. But again, as one guy told me, he said, one lineman, he said, look, it's going to be a major effort, but we have plenty of help. And that storm team of approximately 26,000 is spread out across southeast Louisiana trying to get it done.
David Freeze from Entergy is our guest. David, there were a number of spots in Baton Rouge, and I think there's still a few left as of now, that were just problem areas. I know, like, I live in Sherwood, and I could see linemen working out of people's backyards. What were some of the bigger problems, bigger hurdles that y'all had to clear in order to get folks back up and running?
So the way our restoration process works, it's we start with critical infrastructure. We try to get critical and social infrastructure, if you will, and that includes social infrastructure being gas stations, grocery stores, and then that critical infrastructure being police stations, hospitals, and those facilities that are essential to the health and well-being of our communities. We try to get those online first, while also focusing on getting bulk amounts of customers on. So you try to get the largest amount of customers on at a time and work your way down the line until you get to the very last customer and get those lights on. Baton Rouge is, there's some electrical infrastructure that's in the rear alley, as we call it, which is essentially the backyard of homes.
Right.
And unfortunately, a lot of times you can't get a bucket truck through the driveway down into the backyard in order to set new poles. Folks have to come in and, the tree trimmers have to end up cutting the trees and limbs away from the lines. But even before that, you have to isolate the system on that particular street. And that basically entails having our distribution linemen come in and ensuring that street is de-energized so that we can work on those facilities safely. So after the tree trimmers come in, they remove all the vegetation, cut the limbs and trees off of our facilities. Then and only then can we get our rear alley machines down driveways and into backyards in order to set poles, and oftentimes have to climb those poles manually rather than booming up in the air with a derrick. So you're talking about adding exponential amounts of time in order to restore power in the rear alleys. Also, there's transmission infrastructure that was damaged in Baton Rouge and beyond. and that is a major component of the electrical grid. So, the way I like to describe it is, if you were to refer to the electric grid as the transportation system, our high voltage transmission lines are the interstates, our substations are the on and off ramps, and then the streets leading up to homes and businesses, the distribution system. We cannot energize the distribution system, which are those wires and poles that you see within your residential areas, that's, right outside your door, if you will. And we can't energize that portion of the system until we get our substations back online and repair the high voltage transmission lines or, transmission utility poles if they've been broken. And a lot of times those are in the woods or in, far off right of ways. And we have to, again, specialized equipment has to be maneuvered to those areas in order to set new poles, hang new wire in the air. So it's a process, and, there are some customers that are, without power today, and we're hoping to get the vast majority back online.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, portions of Central, Goodwood, and Millerville and O'Neill are what we're looking to get online today.
Well, I want to ask you about one specifically, and I don't know how granular you can get on this, but the more in-depth, the better. Terrace subdivision, Old Hammond Highway, approaching Airline Highway. There was an incident that happened during the storm itself where a Hummer ran into an already downed pole. There is a section of both Terrace subdivision and across the street from it on Old Hammond Highway that's still without power, and Old Hammond Highway is shut down as a result of this. Do we know what the details are? Like, did this car accident exacerbate an already existing problem?
So I can't speak to the car accident because I'm not aware of that component. Not saying that it didn't occur, but what I know about the Tara subdivision there is that it was we were working yesterday in that subdivision as well as today, and we're going to be working there all day. As I spoke to earlier, you can't get the distribution system online until you get the transmission infrastructure up, and that's what we're currently working on. And there's transmission equipment in that area that needs to be repaired in order for us to energize the distribution system. So we are aware of that outage, and we were working on it all day yesterday, and we're going to continue into today and hopefully bring those customers online soon.
We're looking at roughly 1,300 folks in East Baton Rouge Parish still without power. That is a very small number compared to just east of here. You mentioned Livingston and Ascension taking Category 2 wins. You did not mention for how long. I mean, they took it for hours. This storm slowed down a great deal, and those two parishes just took a pounding. What kind of assessment can you give us from Livingston and Ascension Parish as far as restoration's concerned there? Because clearly they just got beat up.
Yeah, we're, from the latest projections that I have, we were hoping to get the vast majority of Livingston online by the end of day today, into this evening and into tonight. So we still have the September 7th restoration timeline for Livingston. But look, I'll tell you, I drove east of Baton Rouge and into Hammond and Tenchville Parish, and particularly into Ponchatoula. And it's kind of similar to the damages you're seeing in Livingston in those areas. You don't see you'll go into town and you'll think to yourself, well, I don't see a tremendous amount of damage. But when you start to venture into the more rural portions of Livingston and Tenchville, you start to go, okay, now this is where it happened, because the amount of trees and vegetation that came down is just, it makes you respect what Mother Nature can do. Yeah. It's just, it's like a pine forest in certain areas. And when those trees come down, they fall onto our power lines and they snap utility poles, and they can do a lot of damage to the electrical infrastructure. In particular, I think it was Wagner Road that I was traveling along in Ponchatoula. What would be normally a two-way street was narrowed to one because of the amount of vegetation that still had to be cleared. And so it's taking a big effort, and we have to get tree trimmers, and we're working very closely with the municipalities in order to clear the roadways. But that's largely what you're seeing in those more rural portions of those parishes, just tremendous amounts of tree damage. I was having lunch at one of the service centers in Tangipahoa Parish that day, and I was speaking to a drone operator, and he was telling me, look, the one circuit that I flew today, there were easily 200 poles on the ground, many of which took down our facilities. So a lot of vegetation damage. That, like you said, that storm just sat over us for too long. And if you look at if you see the numbers, it's just unbelievable. So, in terms of utility poles, we had more poles broken or in need of repair for Hurricane Ida than Hurricanes Delta, Zeta, and Katrina combined. Wow. So it's just it's a lot of work, but again, we have plenty of help. We have crews from more than 41 states that have come into our area to help us get the power back on, and we are incredibly grateful for them.
David Freese is our guest for another minute and a half. David, I want to give you the floor for this. When you mentioned all those linemen coming into town, logistically, this can prove to be challenging as well. My guess is we're going to see a few stories in the coming days about some of those logistical issues. How overwhelming of an effort is it to get everyone where they need to go in a timely manner?
So we're doing everything we can to close the gaps as it relates to logistics. We're doing everything we can to ensure that every lineman and outside contractor that comes into our area has a bed and is fed. And we're going to continue working incredibly hard to close those logistical gaps. And I'll tell you, just over the past couple of days, conditions have improved. In addition to that, we're working closely with, some private entities across Southeast Louisiana to help us take care of some of these crews that are coming in. And it's just amazing to see communities come together. I've heard people that are, cooking food, bringing them to the linemen, and just, helping everybody working together to try and to make this a successful restoration. And it's a large storm team. It's a lot of folks that are coming into our area, and we owe it to them, to ensure that they're as comfortable, they have the comforts of home while they're working here in Southeast Louisiana, because they've traveled from afar to help us rebuild our communities. And we're grateful for their effort, and we want to make sure that they're as comfortable as possible when they're down here working to rebuild these communities.
100%. David Freese from Entergy. We'll be back in touch later on the week for a further update for the folks that are a little more southeast of us. Thank you so much for the time this morning, man.
Thank you. Take care.
Absolutely. You do the same. I mean, that's a lot of ground to cover. And when I set that interview up on Friday, there were still over, I want to say, 65,000 people in East Baton Rouge Parish without power. Come back on the air this morning, 1,300. That's a huge difference. All right, we're going to take one more break. When we come back, we'll close it out next. Before we take that break, though, he mentioned comfort in the back end of that. That's a nice little segue for me to tell you about the folks over at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. Yesterday was the big Labor Day sale. Don't let the fact that Labor Day is past dissuade you in any way from going to get a new mattress. If you were without power for any length of time, you know full well how hot it can get in your South Louisiana home. A cooling gel mattress can make a heck of a difference in a time like that. And oh, by the way, even when you have power, a cooling gel mattress or a hybrid mattress can play a heck of a role in keeping you comfortable throughout the night. 2 locations of the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. 4065 Florida Boulevard is the Mid-City location. 18181 Jefferson Highway, that's the corner of Jefferson and Hoosier 2. Either location has the same great deals, same great prices, same great financing, and if you mention you heard about it right here, you will get free delivery. Mitch will hook that up for you. Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. All right. I didn't see if that was on the log or not, but I just figured I'd get it in now. I hadn't read it, and I wasn't going to. So that leaves me with Baton Rouge Physical Therapy and Go Slim Nutrition. Was BRPT on the log at all? I wonder if they rolled over for this. They signed an annual. They need to be. I'll give them a make good tomorrow if I need to, but. Yeah. It's new month. Some stuff might not have transferred, but they're an annual, so. You're going to hear a story tomorrow about some of those logistical problems. I'll tell you off the air what went into that.
Yeah, so sometimes, Brian, like, for stuff like we're doing in Your Money Now or CBS News, he'll give you the one to go extra. And like I said, just put the range of pocket cues so you can time it to start the commercial break. See, for any wild hour, CBS News and something like that, you just skip CBS News altogether.
Yeah, so if it's like 31:40, like if I say I'm going a minute over but I only go 40 seconds over, you just dive right into local news, and it'll catch back up on the back end. We'll have a little more room on the back end. But with Your Money Now, it's hard timed at 50. The spot airs at 51. Contractually, we only have to carry the spot. And even then, we under-promise and over-deliver. Yeah, there's one a day that we can skip because it's not like contractually the number we're contractually obligated to, we deliver one more than that every day, so I have that buffer room. Yep. I'm wiped. No, it's not ready to get back up and running today. Here's the thing, though. If I had another day off, I'd be just as tired tomorrow.
The good thing is, Jay's coming back today, so I've got him left to deal with him up late.
Is Jay coming back every day? Let me know if I'm needed tomorrow or not.
I'll let you know.
Okay.
Jay's thing was to come back the day after Labor Day and just be here.
Good.
Everything's running smoothly so far.
There's wood underneath there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a Google document that shows where people can register for shared workspace. Yeah, just put the link into.
This report is brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get up to $170 with the purchase of 4 Toyo passenger or light truck tires. Visit ShawbillsTire.com to learn more.
.856 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Thanks again to David Freeze from Entergy for hopping on board to talk a little bit. Much overdue conversation, but I appreciate his time. And yeah, I mean, they've gotten some ridiculous amounts of work done over the last week. Look, I can tell you, as someone who didn't get his power back until Saturday, gosh, so frustrating. So frustrating. But at the same time, though, don't confuse that level of frustration with a lack of empathy for those who have it worse. And most of us in Baton Rouge are kind of in this boat, right? You're sitting there in the heat. You know other people have it worse. That doesn't mean that, like, your situation is not worthy of your own disappointment. Saw so much on social media over the last week of, someone would post, well, it's another day without power. This stinks. And then someone else would immediately respond was, at least you have a house. Well, yeah, at least you have a house. It's not a competition to be frustrated. Anyway, my appreciation to David Freeze for hopping on board, and we will check back in with him later on to find out what level of progress they're making further to the south and east of us. Hey, got to ask you this. How quickly did you slam through your hurricane snacks? Huh? I know we all stock up ahead of time and then blow right through them before you know it. You stock up ahead of time, and then you look over, and you're like, there was a full box of oatmeal cream pies there 2 days ago. Well, if you did that this time around, maybe you want to start thinking about adopting some healthier lifestyle choices. That's where Go Slim Nutrition comes in. If you put on a few hurricane pounds, that's where Go Slim Nutrition comes in. Or if you were meaning to do this just from jump, 763-9627 is the phone number, 763-9627. Give Vicki and her team a call over at Go Slim Nutrition. I'll tell you what I love about the program. First of all, the food's good, but you can get diet food anywhere that tastes good, right? Accountability is where it's at. I go over there each and every week and weigh in. In fact, I went over there on Friday. They were without power, and they still got to see me, and I still got to see them, and we still got to sit down and talk about what I did right through the storm, all the stuff I did wrong through the storm. And you know what? The effects of Hurricane Ida weren't that great weren't that bad, I should say, when it came to staying on or off the diet. They work within your lifestyle to make sure you can utilize the program moving forward, to make sure that you don't fall off the wagon just from one bad day or one bad week. Give them a call, 763-9627, or just swing by. Bluebonnet at Perkins, Rouse's Shopping Center. Look to your left. You will see Go Slim Nutrition. All right, that is going to do it for today. Coming up tomorrow, Attorney Franz Borghardt will be in for Legally Served. No shortage of topics to talk about there. Congressman Graves will be on board as well, and I believe District Attorney Hiller Moore will be in the house too. So we got a full slate for you tomorrow. Stick around after the show. Fox News Rundown's coming your way next. That'll be followed by Brian Kilmeade, then the Dave Ramsey Show. Then Jay Ducote is back in the saddle. Yes, Jay Ducote Show coming your way from 4 to 6 this afternoon with Jay Ducote actually hosting the Jay Ducote Show. It's a glorious day. Thank y'all so much for listening. We'll see you tomorrow.
Protect your retirement. Visit safemoneyplan.net.
All right. YouTube, we normally have a Monday morning meeting that we have to bail for since yesterday was a holiday. The Monday morning meeting is today. So we will see you later. Thanks for watching.